Welcome to the Eat Better, Move Better, Live Better podcast presented by Flourish with Tracy, where we'll dive into the realms of holistic wellness, plant-based nutrition, yoga, and self-care to help you live your best life. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our special segments. Meditation Monday. Start your week with mindfulness. Wellness Wednesdays. Get the midweek boost you need. Sadhana Saturdays. Dedicate weekends to personal growth. Join us as we explore and discuss all things to eat better, move better, and live better. Welcome to Sadhana Saturday. Who am I? This question echoes through spiritual journeys, traditions. However, in yoga, it points directly to the mystery of the ego and the self. Today, we'll explore the journey of transforming the ego from the little I to the big I. From who am I to who I am. This journey is one of integration and remembering through understanding the ego through the lens of the heart chakra. When we view via our heart rather than fighting our ego, we learn to recognize its patterns, soften its grip, and return the ego to the heart, which is the center of our being. Our heart center is the Anahata chakra, the energy center of love, compassion, and unity. And it is here in the heart that the ego dissolves not through force, but through the gentle power of unconditional love. This exploration is not a rejection of ourself, but a sacred remembering of who we are beneath all of the stories, roles, facades, archetypes, and masks. It allows us to move from illusion to essence, from separation to connection, from the little I to the big I. Ego is the sense of a separate self, as if there's an internal voice that says, I am this body, this role, this personality, this story. In yoga philosophy, our journey is to remember who we truly are, a divine interconnected being, not limited by ego or form. The ego, or ahamkara, is a necessary psychological construct, but it can dominate our identity and create suffering. The ahamkara is the creator of the ego. It creates the I maker, and the mental function that psychologically constructs and clings to our personal identity. It's important to understand this and then move through the journey from who am I to who I am. The who am I is our little I. It's the false self. It's identifying our body, our minds with roles and experiences. It's not inherently bad because it gives us our individuality and it provides all of our needs. It represents the animal chakra or portions of our body, such as our procreation, our sustenance, the food that we consume, the livelihoods that we make for ourselves. All of those things are important, and it's everything we need to physically exist. However, as we move through our chakras and move through our journey, we then begin to explore via the heart center how we feel. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then after that, though, as we work through our heart center, we can ascend into the big I, leaving the physical little I behind and moving into our spiritual self, who I am, our true self. The ego is one of the four aspects of our mind. Manas, which is our sensory mind, Buddhi, which is our intellect, Chitta, which is our memory, and the ego, Ahamkara. It's not inherently bad. It gives us our individuality. But when we over-identify with the Ahamkara, we forget our true nature, which is Atman. Ego is the illusion of separateness, the belief that I am isolated from everything else. It creates suffering because it constantly seeks control, validation, and permanence in a changing world. Spiritual awakening often involves seeing through the ego to realize the true self, the big I, the conscious present, and unity. In Freud's model, the ego is the mediator between the id, which is our instincts, superego, which is our morals, and reality. It helps navigate the world, manage impulses, and develop self-image. In a healthy state, the ego is flexible and balanced, but it can also become defensive and distorted. In this model, a healthy ego is a grounded identity, adaptive and self-aware, serves the soul, accepts feedback, and has a humble confidence. An unhealthy ego, on the other hand, is over-identifying with identity. It's the only definition of who you are. It's defensive, rigid, and reactive. It blocks soulful expression. It feels attacked easily, and it's full of pride or shame. When we work through the practice of yoga, the ego's purpose is to be transcendent, not erased. The goal is not to destroy the ego, but to see through it and to stop mistaking the ego for who you truly are. The ego then becomes a tool, not a master. Instead, it becomes a servant of the true self, the Atman, rather than its substitute. The ego, Ahamkara, is an aspect of the mind that says, I am this body, I am this identity, and I am separate. It creates a duality of ourself versus other, mine versus yours, success versus failure. Ego is shaped by personal history, social conditioning, and fear of survival. Though it helps us to navigate the world, clinging to ego leads to attachment, suffering, and disconnection from our true self. When we express our ego, we may feel the need to always be right. We may seek validation or superiority. We're resistant to change, and we take things personally. When you work through the navigation and the transformation from the little I to the true self, the big I, the Atman, then it is an opportunity to embrace a pure, timeless awareness that you are one with all. The big I is unconditional. It's not a personality or identity, but it is the pure consciousness itself. It's not separate from others. It's the same consciousness looked through many different eyes. When you live from the vantage point of the big I, you bring peace, clarity, and a sense of unity with life. You witness awareness. You embody a deep compassion and equanimity. You're not attached to things, and you're able to fully surrender and incorporate stillness beyond thought. The small I of our ego is the problem. It's not just a functional identity. It begins to create suffering, separation, and limitation in our lives and relationships. It is unconscious, rigid, and defensive. It cuts us off and separates us from our higher self, others, and the flow of life. Clear signs that the small I is ruling and operating dysfunctionally is the resistance to surrender. As ego, small I craves control and predictability. If you feel intense fear, anxiety, anger, loss, or uncertainty, the ego is gripping very tight. It's saying, I must stay in charge and I know what's best. You may over-identify with roles or jobs. I am this job, or I am the victim. You may feel a fragility around your self-worth. You may have a sense of superiority, feeling better than others, the need to win, maybe overthinking things and constantly running narratives over and over in your mind. There is an inauthenticity around image and properly managing what you really see and feel, hiding your true feelings, pretending to be something that you aren't, fearing to show your vulnerability, or being driven by the need for approval or status. It's lack of true presence. Small I ego lives in me, mine, my future, my past, me. And you're rarely present with what's actually in front of you. It's never good enough, always seeking more, better, or different. And there's emotional triggers all wrapped through small I ego. Quick temper, envy, pride, shame, all kinds of defensive flare-ups, always reacting from a vantage point of fear, loss of control, loss of or lack of awareness, and always stuck in a pattern of an internal conflict. Just totally disconnected. The small I ego creates the identity, but it also creates an illusion. And it causes suffering. However, when this illusion is cracked, it shows us also what needs integration, what needs transition, what needs transformation. And then you're ready to move from the little I of worrying and wondering of who am I, into being grounded, strong, and secure, working via our heart to the big I, who I am. The Anahata chakra is the transformational midpoint. It is where the ego begins to dissolve into the frequency of unconditional love. The Anahata chakra is our heart center. It is the fourth chakra, symbolizing love, compassion, forgiveness, and emotional balance. It is the bridge between the lower three chakras, which is our physical, survival, desire, and power, into the upper three chakras, expression, intuition, and spiritual connection. In the heart, the ego softens. We stop seeing ourselves as separate, and we begin to feel the truth of interconnectedness. When our heart is open, we experience love not as an emotion, but as a state, as a being. Our heart has two sides, upper and bottom. And we sometimes say it, I love you from the bottom of my heart. And that means that we are more earth-centered and we're leading with our heart in our decision-making. And it is more ego-based and self-centered because we are maybe doing things that are more pleasurable or palatable, or even our romantic love, such as I'm in love with you. It's where we're rooted and grounded with all things physical. However, if we begin to move into the top half or portion or side of our heart, it's more spiritual and intuitive. It leads through compassion, and our decision making is for unconditional and community love, loving of the world as a whole, the better good for all, selflessness, being able to love wholeheartedly, connecting with our crowns. It's the meeting point between the flow of our human consciousness upwards towards the spiritual flow and the flow of our soul consciousness towards the world. Our heart chakra, anahata, means unstuck or unhurt. It is associated with love, compassion, and healing. And it is this chakra where our soul resides. And that's why the location is in the center of our bodies, close to our heart. It is believed to be the seat of our soul and where our transformation from the physical to the spiritual begins. And healing our ego isn't about destroying it. It's about integrating the awareness and compassion through our heart center to our higher consciousness. It becomes a healthy vessel for our soul's expression, and our ego is no longer a barrier to unity. Instead, through the heart center, we are bridging between form and formlessness, recognizing that our ego is not an enemy. It's a structure for just navigating the world, and it only becomes dysfunctional when we don't examine it. When we are healed, our ego is humble, adaptive, and aligned with our soul's purpose. It says, I am a unique expression of the whole, the one, and I'm not separate from it. And when we transform through the heart, we lose grip of control, fear, and judgment. We embrace love and compassion unconditionally for all. The need to win is replaced by the desire to understand. We accept ourselves and others just as they are. And we realize that vulnerability is a strength, an opportunity to learn and grow. It's not a weakness. And we can use mantras such as I am love or I forgive to help center the ego and draw it into the heart center. And we can witness our ego without judgment. And we can start by noticing patterns of our ego, needs to control, defend, prove, or compare. And we can begin to practice not being reactive, to just observe. The moment you can see the ego, you are no longer fully identified with it. And sometimes you can just journal or use a meditation to help you identify and spot any patterns that you may have with gentleness and not shame. Know that the ego is loud, the soul is silent. And when you embrace awareness, you will be able to hear, see, or feel the difference. Moving through the Anahata heart chakra to soften the ego helps you embrace the unconditional love. You let go of judgment. You can start by doing a heart-centered loving kindness meditation or breathing into your chest to reprogram any emotional responses. Create a daily gratitude, forgiveness, or self-compassion practice to quiet the fear of the ego, letting that fear-based voice go. And surrender, let go of the need to be right. Ego seeks identity in being better, smarter, or even more spiritual. Let it go. Healing begins when we let go of superiority and become willing to learn, to listen, and to serve. Surrender isn't defeat, it's trust in a higher intelligence within you. And you can dissolve your attachment to ego through your spiritual practices or a devotional practice, bhakti yoga, offering the ego to your divine, shifting focus from me to we. You can do selfless service or seva to help transcend the ego by serving others and giving servitude without seeking reward. You can chant mantra, which dissolves thought identity and purifies your mental patterns and frequencies. And you can also do a specific Atma Vicharya, which is a meditation on the self, to peel away of the ego layers of moving from who am I, and so that you can move into who I am, embracing your authenticity and the vulnerabilities that are there, to take away the masks that you may be hiding behind. And healing happens when you allow your imperfections, emotions, and humanity to be seen. When you are vulnerable, you allow others to connect, and it reveals that your big I, who I am, does not need an armor. You can also do shadow work to integrate the rejected self. Ego hides painful, shameful parts in the unconsciousness. When you do shadow work, which is inner healing to address inner child or generational trauma or therapy, all of these things bring compassion to the hidden words or wounds of the little I. And these healing aspects liberate the energy and presence for love and unconditional acceptance. And when we truly begin our journey towards the big I, and we work through the heart chakra, the anahata, we stop identifying with the physical form of the body and the heart, and we begin to resonate with the frequency of the heart instead, the vibration of pure, unconditional love. There are other practices that will help you move from the little I to the big I. We mentioned bhakti, which is devotion through chanting or prayer to honor the divine in all forms. It's also, you can do the practice of metta. Metta is a loving kindness where you cultivate compassion for others, even those we may resist, as well as compassion for yourself. You can do breath work or pranayama, which is working with the life force energy. You can do a heart-centered breath, which is nadi shodhana, which calms the nervous system and opens the heart space. You can do heart-opening asana practices such as back bends and any pose which physically opens the chest to energetically activate the heart center. You can practice forgiveness. Ego clings to judges, but heart liberates through anahata, through the release and compassion, letting it go, practicing forgiveness. And you know that you're healing your ego when you're able to listen more than you defend, to find peace in not knowing. When you feel comfortable with being real, not perfect. When you're able to respond instead of react. When you are guided by love instead of fear. And you're shifting into the big I as you begin to feel more connected to others beyond their role, titles, or their appearance. When you're able to respond with presence and the energy instead of reacting with ego. When you find joy in simplicity and you no longer chase validation or success. when you experience a deep peace, even amidst uncertainty and challenge. The ego is not bad. It's just incomplete when it forgets its source or it remains in the bottom portion of our heart. You don't have to kill the ego, you just need to love it into wholeness, into the center, complete portion of the heart. And through the heart, the Anahata chakra, we can transform, transition, and transmute the ego. Not by force, but by presence, forgiveness, and love. To move from loving something specifically, romantically, or directly from the bottom of our hearts to love of all things unconditionally as they are, wholeheartedly, through the big I of knowing who you are. Knowing the big I is always there, the true eternal self beyond all roles. And to be able to remember this truth and embody it breath by breath through your whole heart. Ego healing is an invitation to inner peace, an invitation to move from the little I to the big I, from uncertainty and question of who am I, through the heart, transforming into statement of truth, who I am. Move into unconditional love to be one with all. And all you have to do is let your heart lead the way. Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's insights help you on a personal journey towards a healthier, happier life. Don't forget to join every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern for more self-care and holistic wellness tips. Before you go, make sure to comment, click the bell, like, and subscribe buttons for upcoming episode notifications. Be sure to always consult a medical professional before making any major changes regarding your health, diet, or routine. In the meanwhile, stay motivated, stay inspired, and remember, every step you take is one step closer to a better you. Until next time, keep flourishing, and as always, may all be well.